Okay, great. Looks like we're on Facebook. Let me get this thing rolling. Excellent, guys. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you're just tuning in, my name is Jerry. I'm the owner and founder of Wealth Dynamics, and I'm coming to you with my live Friday night wealth creation course. Every Friday, I come to you with these courses because my goal and my focus is to help spread financial education, financial literacy, knowledge on how money works. Okay, I've been doing these courses literally every single week for free for years. And it's because mostly I didn't have this when I was growing up. I didn't have this even when I became a financial advisor. Nobody sat down and showed me how this worked. Nobody said, hey, here's the ins and outs of money. Here's what you need to know. And so really, I had to figure this out on my own, right? And so what I want to do tonight is I want to give you an inside look at how the financial world works. Okay, how the financial world works. And when I say that, I'm referring to this entire world of stocks and bonds and financial advisors and mutual funds and banks and brokerages and all this stuff that we're accustomed to hearing about that really is kind of confusing. I'm going to admit that it's very confusing, right? So just to give you a little bit of backstory on me. So I used to be a traditional financial advisor for many years. And when I say that, what I mean is I used to sit down with people. I was licensed. I would sit down with people and I would show them how their retirement worked. I would show them how to invest in stocks. I would show them how to invest in mutual funds. I would help them plan all of this out. And in order to be in that position, I had to take several federal tests. Okay. And those tests basically helped me memorize a bunch of financial jargon. Okay, who here likes jargon? You know, made up words from technical people that sound very intelligent, but it's very over all of our heads, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it's very hard to understand. That's called nomenclature. Okay, nomenclature. It's the particular language, the jargon, the vernacular that's used specifically for a technical area, whether that be, in this case, it's money, but they have it for medical, engineers have it, we all have it, right? But the bottom line is if somebody doesn't understand that stuff, it actually puts them outside that world, right? Think about it. If you've ever been in a conversation before where you were talking to somebody and they started using fancy terminology that you didn't understand. Okay, I want you to think about that. How did you feel during that conversation? I'll tell you how I feel. I feel kind of stupid. I feel kind of ignorant. I almost feel wrong for not knowing, to the point that I'm embarrassed to stop and ask what they mean. So I just sit there and oh, cool, yeah, and I don't know what they're talking about, right? And so that's really what's happening in the financial world is all of these tests that I took, the licenses that I had to pass. It was a bunch of that. Bunch of people that made up a bunch of words that about a bunch of things that aren't actually even real to make their job sound more complex and confusing and important than it really is. Right? Not to get political, but I'm gonna. This is the definition of every politician alive. All of them act that way, right? So the bottom line is the financial industry has been around as we know it for a very short time. And I'm going to dive in tonight how it got started and how all this works, because the outside looking in, like as an individual or as an investor or as a potential customer of these people, I might look at this as an advisor. I might look at this and have kind of this attitude of awe, like, man, they've got these licenses and they've got these letters behind their name and they use these fancy words and they have these sophisticated financial products and they're very good at networking and they're very good at speaking and they're very polished. And I start to kind of treat them like they're financial gods. Like, I don't know this. They know this. They're the professional. I don't have to know this. I'm just going to hand it over to them. Guys, that's exactly what the industry wants. Okay. The attitude of I'm going to give my money to a professional because they know and I don't, therefore I don't have to know, is called apathy. Apathy is the lowest level of responsibility that an individual can have. Apathy means quit. I've quit on money to the point that I'm just going to hand it over to this person and hopefully they do the right thing with it. That's where people are at with money today. And so my message is this. My message is that when I went back and studied, because I went through this period of I got licensed as a financial advisor. I was doing that as a career for a long time, years, very good at it. And then I started to look around at like, well, what are wealthy people actually doing? And I realized wealthy people aren't doing any of this stuff. Historically, they weren't doing any of this stuff. And so when I say this stuff, I mean the retirement plan, I mean the mutual fund, I mean all of the things, the annuity, all of the crap that gets pitched to us. Wealthy people don't actually use that. I studied, I looked, I was licensed selling that stuff. So to play devil's advocate on that and then come back around and have the conclusion of, oh man, the stuff that my entire livelihood is based on isn't good for people and it's fake and it doesn't actually build wealth, that was a sobering moment. So for anyone watching, that's kind of like, hey, where's your credibility at? Guys, I was the guy pitching these things. I was the guy selling them. And I'm here to tell you that after researching that, after years of researching that, I came to the conclusion of this isn't good for people. Now, in present time, I don't own any of those things. I won't touch a mutual fund. I won't put my money in the stock market. I don't do retirement accounts. Why? Because that's not how wealth is built. That's how wealth is built for the people selling them. But that's not how wealth is built for us as individuals. So check this out. Outside looking in, I might have this sense of awe. These guys look very, like I said, sophisticated, polished, professional. I don't know. They do know. And it's kind of just this assumption, right? And it's a brand that they've built, a persona that they've built up. And I might look at that and I might see that that's the way to go. I might think, man, if I give my money to these guys, that's what all my peers are doing. That's what my family does. That's what my coworkers do. That's what my friends are doing. And they appear to be the right person to give the money to. So I'm going to do it. They have a fancy tower downtown, more agents than anyone else, big old building, great stuff. I'm going to go ahead and use them. But the problem is, we're going to pick this apart tonight. All of these different people and groups, they're not actually helping you build wealth. Okay, I'm going to show you there's a difference between a solution, like a real solution that actually helps, and a corrective mechanism to a problem. Okay, I'm going to say that again. There's a difference between a solution that actually helps and a corrective mechanism to a problem. A solution means I need water, right? So therefore, I'm going to drink out of this water bottle. That's a solution. I just solved the problem, right? A corrective mechanism is I need water, but instead of drinking from the water bottle, I'm going to take a medicine or a prescription that makes me not thirsty. Doesn't really solve the problem, right? And the problem is that the medicine that I would take to not be thirsty, it's going to have side effects. And guess what? I'm going to have to take more medicine to handle the side effects of that medicine. And then that medicine I'm taking now has side effects. And I'm going to have a corrective problem for that too, where this is an issue that I have because of the issue that I have because of the issue that I have. So I'm going to take this thing to solve that issue. And the chain never ends. And so a lot of what we see today in the financial world is corrective solutions. They're not actual solutions. They're correcting a problem instead of actually, it's symptoms. It's not solving the root. Instead of actually solving the root, we're just going to mask it with what I call an arbitrary. An arbitrary is a made up thing that masks something and requires more arbitraries. All right. So what I want to do tonight is dive into this because the financial industry is where I've spent the last almost decade of my life. And the stuff that I've learned is incredible, guys. I've worked with literally hundreds and hundreds of people on helping them build wealth. I've been able to accomplish that for myself as well. I'm 27, turning 28 next week. I've been able to build my net worth to over $1 million already by following the advice that I'm using. Not that I'm making up and telling you to do without actually doing myself, that I'm using myself because I studied wealthy people and I said, what do they do? Okay, so let me share my screen here. If you guys are on Instagram, really quick, if you guys are on Instagram, I want to give you the opportunity to check out the screen share that we're about to do. I will flip my phone around for you guys on Instagram. If it's hard for you to see, what I want you to do is go to my Facebook page because we have it live streaming there, and Facebook allows for me to share on my Zoom. And so you'll see the entire slideshow on my Facebook page, and that way you can see it all, right? If you can't, bear with me. I'll flip the screen around. You'll be able to check it all out, but it's not going to be as great, okay? So we're going to go ahead and check out how the financial industry works. Let me flip this around for you guys. All right, so basically my company, Wealth Dynamics, we help with 4 things, okay? 4 main things. Now, the first thing we help with is we help families become financially educated. Okay, financially educated. Now, financially educated means that I understand money because I systematically study it and I apply it to my life. And I succeed with it. Okay, I systematically study money and apply it to my life and succeed with it. And that's an understanding of money. That's what financially educated means. Therefore, and this is not to make anyone wrong, it's just my viewpoint. If I don't systematically study money, okay, if I don't apply it to my life, if I'm not succeeding with it, I don't understand it. I cannot say I'm financially educated if I don't have all of those boxes checked. So this is the first thing here. I'm going to pull my pen up here really quick. You guys know I love the pen. So my first thing here is I need to become financially educated. Come back here, pen. There we go. Okay, so this is the first thing. Now the problem lies here in the fact that most people aren't. Okay, in my life, when I realized that I needed to become financially educated, I didn't know who to turn to. So I was like, all right, let me go read books. Okay, let me go read books. Let me go talk to people in my life that they seem like they're doing well with money, and then I can use their secondhand observation as data for myself to then mimic it and get similar results. Very logical thought process. Now the problem is if I'm studying secondhand data, it's only as good as the person who had the firsthand observation and their ability to communicate what happened. Do you guys get that? So I'm thirsty. I know that there's water in here because I've seen somebody drink out of a water bottle before. Therefore, I used my firsthand observation of seeing someone else do it in real life to then do it myself. Secondhand observation is I've never seen a water bottle before. Never done it, never watched someone drink out of it. It's just a concept. And I had my boy Henry _27 explain to me at one point in my life how water bottles worked based on his observation. And then he regurgitated his observation to me, and I took copious notes in my head. Okay, there's this thing called a water bottle, and it's plastic, and it's filled with liquid. And when I'm ready to drink on it, I unscrew the cap, and I put my mouth up against it, and I drink what's in it. Right? Hopefully, he was really good at explaining it to me because that could also be cleaning fluid. That could be freaking Windex. Right? Because I've never seen a water bottle before. That's the problem. So when I started reaching out in my life and figuring out how do I get financially educated, I had issues because I was going off of secondhand information. I was going off of Dave Ramsey. Initially, Dave Ramsey had the firsthand observation of over leveraging on a bunch of single family real estate and having to go bankrupt. Therefore, in his opinion, all debt's bad, because he did something unintelligent, and based on his personal experience, he regurgitated that out to other people who then took the secondhand observation and applied it to their own lives, right? And that worked really well for me for getting out of debt. It didn't work well for me for investing, for saving, for building financial freedom. Okay, so then I was like, well, the best way to do this then is to be a financial advisor, because a financial advisor, they know. Right. So then I became a financial advisor. I took my life insurance test, my health insurance test, my Series 6, my Series 63. I was about to take my Series 65. And that's all secondhand information. Now, the problem is that information isn't even written by people that have done well with money before. Okay. That's written by the government. The government's never done well with money, factually speaking. Right. So this issue, financial education, financially educated families, is what Wealth Dynamics does. Now, like I mentioned, most things that you're going to see in the financial industry are correcting symptoms. They're correcting symptoms. Okay. The problem here is that someone needs to be financially educated, but they lack understanding of money. Okay, that's the root problem. They lack an understanding of money. I lacked understanding of money. Therefore, I could not apply it. I could not succeed with it. It wasn't working well for me in my life. Guys, money is simple. Okay, and again, if it doesn't feel simple, this is more and more why you need to be on these webinars every week and working with us. Money is simple. Money is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. That's all money is. It's not complex. If it feels complex, it's because people are using words that are nerd, vernacular and nomenclature in industry jargon that don't actually mean anything. But again, the issue is that people lack understanding. Okay, now think about this. If I lack understanding, the easy way to fix that would be to go get understanding, right? To go start studying money, like we talked about last week. Okay, but the problem is, instead of actually solving the issue, we inserted an arbitrary into the equation. The corrective action for people not using or understanding money correctly wasn't to help them understand money. It was actually to further take away their responsibility by inserting financial professionals into the picture. Okay, so instead of me understanding money, which is the problem, I can now say, all right, well, I could go understand and learn money, or I could just go to this guy. I could go to this guy, and this guy is going to help me do it instead. And then I don't have to learn about it, and it's easier, and it takes less and less of my time, right? So what happened is basically this solved a symptom. Didn't actually fix the problem, it just masked a symptom. So now people go to a financial advisor. They still don't understand money. They still don't have education, and now they don't think they need to because they have the scapegoat of then pushing it off to somebody else. I don't need to. I work with my guy, and my guy knows all about this stuff. I work with New York Life. I work with Edward Jones. I work with Merrill Lynch. I don't have to know this because my financial advisor does. Therefore, it's not my responsibility. Okay. Now, the other problem then that's created, I want to show you this. We had a problem. We solved it with the mask of the symptom, which then created another problem, which then created another problem. Okay, well, we're going to have all these financial advisors. We have to have licenses for them. We can't just have people running amok telling people how to do stuff with their money if they're not licensed, right? Now, the easiest solution would be, great, well, then let's get rid of the financial advisors and let's just educate people on money. But instead, now we have this other layer. We have licenses now. We have to have all of this information that we teach these guys, and they have to pass these fancy tests so that they can call themselves financial professionals so that they can help people with money. Do you guys see how deep this is getting? This is getting very complex. Instead of just educating people, we have this, and because of this, now we have this. Okay, now adding licenses now creates another problem. We now need to have tests. We can't have a license without a test. What good would that be? Why would we have a license if we weren't going to have a test? Now we have to have tests. There needs to be the Series 7 exam. I think it's 4 hours. 4 hours of testing on not even like how do you help someone. It's what is a stock? What is a bond? What is an option? What is a call? What is a put? What does this law and regulation say about this? What does this law and regulation say about this? It's just regurgitating a bunch of bullshit. Okay, so now we have tests. That's the next arbitrary inserted in the equation. Okay, the tests now create another problem. We have to have curriculum. We now have to have something that people are going to study so that they can actually pass the test. Okay, so now we have curriculum. Now we have companies that need to create the curriculum, Kaplan Financial Education, all of these guys that are going through and they're now creating curriculum. They're not succeeding with money and then sharing what they did. They're arbitrarily creating financial curriculum for these guys to study for the sake of them passing a test so they can say they have a license so they can go help people understand money. Yet these guys here don't understand money because all they did was study a test created by a company that also doesn't understand money. Do you guys see how confusing this gets? This is just financial education. We're not talking about anything but helping people understand money. This is the current system in place. Now, the issue is this is now another arbitrary inserted. Well, if we're going to have people creating curriculum, it needs government regulation. It needs to have a government agency that now oversees it to make sure that that curriculum is what the government allows for it to be, and it's legal. And guess what? Ta-da! Taxes. Now we get to pay taxes. Because we're financially uneducated, it costs us in the form of taxes to pay a government agency to come up with curriculum so that these dinguses can pass tests and get licenses and teach us how to money when we could just money by ourselves and bypass the entire system. Okay, now, I was sketching this out the other day and I was like, I really don't want to go another step. In my head, I was like, I really don't want to go another step because I know what lays at the end of this chain. Okay, I know what lays at the end of this chain. It's not stopping with government regulation. Okay, because you think about government regulation, it doesn't come out of nowhere. Somebody lobbies for the laws to be in place. Somebody pays people, somebody works and wines and dines politicians to get these laws and get these regulations and get this curriculum. Next step, we now have lobbyists and special interests, boy. This is the top. Okay, this is the top level now. We now have lobbyists and special interests paying the government, contributing to their politics, wining and dining them, all of this stuff so that they can get their own tainted rules, ideas, thoughts, just all of the stuff they want in the financial system into this curriculum, so that this is now being put into the tests and the licenses so that these financial professionals will talk to us about these guys and their products and services. Think about that, right? Like we literally, it's the definition of letting the fox guard the hen house. By definition, it's crazy. So if we're looking at this from a standpoint of, am I really being financially educated? Am I really being financially educated? No, I'm not. Okay, I'm getting pitched by a salesperson who took a test created by a testing curriculum company, regulated by the government, paid for by the people that they're selling the product for. There's no way I'm getting unbiased financial advice. I don't care if this guy's a fiduciary. To become a fiduciary, he has to pass a test. Guess who wrote the test? Guess who regulated the test? Guess who paid the government to have their own viewpoints put into the test? I hope this is sinking in because this is actually what's happening. Okay, so let me erase this really quick. I'm going to clean it up here. So this is the flow of what's going on, and most people aren't aware of that because we don't see all of this stuff above. We don't see all of this stuff. We just see the neat little guy that works at Edward Jones in New York Life with his rinky-dink license and all of his great knowledge about financial products that goes way over our head, and we say, oh, he knows more than I do. I should work with him. We don't think about these guys paid trillions of dollars and billions of dollars to the politicians to make sure that their, or we'll call it propaganda, is in these curriculum programs. It's in the tests to be able to pass the license, and that this guy is now indoctrinated by this guy. And I'm only going to get the information that these guys want this guy to have. Period. End of story. Okay, so I was sketching this out yesterday, right? I was sketching this out yesterday, and I've been in the industry, like I said, almost a decade, and it blew my mind to see it written out like this. I've never seen this. Okay, so I was sitting there coming up with this. I literally had beads. I was lining the beads out, and I was putting them together and drawing this out, and I was like, holy cow. Like this is, at the end of the day, it's run by these guys. And I'm over here thinking I'm being financially educated. I'm over here thinking I'm being taken care of. I'm thinking that good things are happening with my money, when really it's just these guys making a bunch of money and these guys making a bunch of money to have these guys sell their products and services. Okay, Michael Graham says this is why the poor stay poor. That's 100% true. So the other component of this then, the other component of this is wealthy. So wealth dynamics, we A, help people become financially educated. B, we help people become wealthy. Okay, by definition, okay, we already went over the definition of financial education. Let's go over the definition of wealthy. Wealthy means that my passive income exceeds my expenses, taxes, and savings. Passive income exceeds expenses, taxes, and savings. That's wealthy.
Are you able to spin out the graphs?
Yeah, let me zoom in a little bit for you guys. Okay, wealthy means that my passive income exceeds my expenses, taxes, and savings. If I don't have that, I am not wealthy. You guys tracking with that? That's the goal. Now, the problem is most people don't know what to do to get there. Would you agree with that? That's where I was. I was 19 years old, wondering about how money worked. I didn't know where to put it. I didn't know where to put it. I didn't know how to keep it. I didn't know how to earn it. I didn't know how it worked because I was financially uneducated. Once I started becoming financially educated, then the problem became, all right, well, cool. I'm starting to make money. Where do I put it? Now, I was taught you put it into a retirement account, of course. You put it into a Roth IRA. You put it into your 401k because that's what everyone around me was doing, right? Now, the problem again here, let's go back one, is I lacked understanding on how to do that. Okay, I lacked understanding on how to do that. Because I lacked understanding on how to do that, I couldn't go find the investment. I couldn't go find the financial tools that I needed. Okay, this is most people. Most people have no idea where to invest. Most people have no idea where to put their money. They lack understanding on that. And again, the logical solution would be great. Well, let's give people understanding then. Okay, the wealthiest people in the history of our country, you study John Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, JP Morgan, these guys, they didn't hire a financial advisor. They went and they systematically studied and learned until they could understand, apply, and succeed in the area. That's how they understood investing. That's how they became good with money. Now, again, if I lack understanding, then it's going to be hard for me to find investments. Therefore, we better come up with financial products. This is the invention of financial products. This is the invention of the mutual fund. This is the invention of stocks. This is the invention of the 401k. Because Jerry doesn't know how to invest his money, we need to create products and services for him to easily put it into. That was the solution. Again, that's an arbitrary, guys. It's not actually solving the problem. I don't understand money and investing any better than I did before. The only thing that's different is now it's easier for me to find a place to put it into. It doesn't mean I understand it. It actually probably means I understand it less. Okay, like how would you feel getting in an airplane and then as you're in takeoff, the pilot gets on and he looks like I do. He's up there. He's with his headset. And, well, we're about to take off here, and it's fair weather, and we're going to land in about 4 hours. And by the way, I have no idea how to fly a jet. Okay, you guys would be like, I need to get the hell off this airplane as soon as possible. Like I'm in the exit row. I'm going off the wing right now before this thing leaves the ground. Right? And the reason being is because that pilot does not know how to fly a plane. Now, if he retorted with, but it's okay because we have a product that puts the plane on autopilot, you're not going to feel any better. Right? So just because I have a financial product that puts investing on autopilot doesn't mean I understand money. Okay? Now the issue is, and I want some real honesty here, who on this stream for fun just goes and researches financial products? Let's see, show of hands. Some of you guys are like me and you actually do. Some of you guys are like, no, when I have free time, I don't do that. I don't go research mutual funds. Okay, I did. I'm weird. Less people do that. More people when they have free time, they're gonna go enjoy it with their family. They're gonna go enjoy it with their friends. They're gonna do things that are logically fun to do for the average person, right? So the average American, probably 99.9% of America, just because these financial products exist doesn't mean they know how to get to them, doesn't mean they know how to use them, doesn't mean they can access them, doesn't mean they're going to sign up for them. Okay, so again, we insert this arbitrary of financial products, but now there's another problem that comes up. Because of this financial products, we now have another issue we have to fix, right? So we now have to insert salespeople. We've got to insert salespeople because otherwise, how are these individuals ever going to find out about these great financial products we have? Okay, I want to be very explicit. In this sense, salespeople means financial advisor. A financial advisor is a sales and distribution force. Okay, so we have mutual funds and stocks and bonds and all of these great, awesome financial products. And I say great and awesome sarcastically because they're really not great and awesome. And nobody's going to get to them because nobody understands them. And nobody looks at that stuff for fun. And most people are never going to just stumble across in their free time like, hey, I was looking up stock portfolios. Again, small percentage of us will, most of us won't. So there has to be a salesperson that builds trust and explains it and introduces it and sells this guy on doing it. Okay. Now the issue is we can't have salespeople just out doing whatever. We can't just give them carte blanche to do anything. So we have to have now brokerages and agencies to now hire and manage and monitor these salespeople. Okay, so if you work with a financial advisor, that's this. That's the salespeople, right? Now, where that financial advisor works, Edward Jones, Merrill Lynch, New York Life, Morgan Stanley, that's their broker or their agency. Somebody's got to manage them. Somebody's got to hire them. Somebody has to make sure that they're doing things the way that they're supposed to be done. So now that's another arbitrary inserted is we have these large firms managing groups of salespeople. Okay, who saw Wolf of Wall Street? Okay, if you saw Wolf of Wall Street, that was a real life depiction of what happens when you have people that don't understand money that are sold financial products by salespeople without any oversight. Okay, the oversight they had was the wolf, Jordan Belfort. He was their manager, and he didn't give a crap about helping people. It was let's rip people off and steal from them, and let's use these financial products and their lack of understanding to do so. Right? So we have to have the management there. Now, we can't just have management because that then causes another problem. We actually have to have suppliers, right? Who are what are the management going to have their salespeople sell? So we insert the next arbitrary of financial institutions. Okay, financial institutions. These are going to be your Wall Street firms, right? The people that actually are doing the trading and the investing and building the mutual fund and all of this stuff that we see. These are our financial firms. Okay, and they're now supplying money to the brokerages who are now, or supplying product to the brokerages who are now hiring the salespeople who are now peddling the financial products to these guys that don't understand. This is how it works, guys. It's not pretty. It's not romantic. It's not this professional stigma that you might have about the financial industry. It is a freaking meat factory that sells financial products. Okay, so again, we have these arbitraries inserted. We have now financial institutions. They're now they're increasing the volume of the products that are out there and developing new products. Now, again, the issue here lies with the fact that these guys are not sitting around their boardroom table with their executives saying, how do we help that 60-year-old woman have a really good retirement? Those are not the conversations they're having. They're saying, how do we increase our share prices to keep our shareholders happy and so all of us get bonuses and get paid more? That's the basis of how they're coming up with these products. It's not this conflict of interest that's being avoided and this fiduciary responsibility. It is a product. They do surveys on a market and they figure out what are you most likely to buy. Not what's the best thing for you. What are you most likely to buy? And when they find out what you're most likely to buy, they now supply it to these guys, brokerages and agencies, who then supply it to salespeople, who then start to push these products into your hands, and it makes these guys a bunch of money at your expense. Okay, you guys tracking? Now, again, there's more to this. There's more to this. So if we back this up again, and we look at what's the next step, the next step is, again, government regulation. How fun, right? We can't have financial institutions that are unregulated. We've got to have a way to regulate them. We've got to have somebody keeping them, from breaking rules and taking advantage of people. We need to have government regulation and oversight. Guess what? Taxes. Ta-da. We get to now pay more taxes to have things like the SEC and all this stuff that these guys that lack understanding end up paying for so that these guys can be in business to sell them stuff. You guys seeing the similarities here? Okay, so the government regulation, the government doesn't create financial products. They're not in the business of that. They're in the business of selling the right to sell financial products. That's what licensing is. That's what these rules are. That's what fines are. That's what fees are for, right? So above that, on the very end, we're now back to lobbyists and special interests. Because we can't just have government regulation. These institutions need to lobby to make sure that they insert their products, their lobbyists are putting their information into these government regulations, making sure that Wall Street and banks are the products that are being offered and that that's what financial advisors are allowed to sell. And that's what you end up hearing about because that's all that's out there. That's all that's being allowed to be sold because they're paying the most money. They're paying the most money to the government to make sure that their propaganda is what you hear about and you get marketed to about because that's what's allowed. Okay, so that's how this works with building wealth. This is, again, an inside look at the financial industry. Now, the next thing that we do as a company is we help people navigate their economic futures with more certainty. Okay, meaning that we give people a map to follow. If you follow this, it will take you where you need to go to. Just like a GPS or a map. That's having certainty. Right. I was watching The Office the other night. Who's ever seen that episode where Michael Scott, the main guy, he drives into the lake because his GPS said so? Okay, hilarious episode. That would be the equivalent of lacking certainty. Okay, that would be the equivalent of lacking certainty. Right? I'm not sure if I'm going to end up in a good place if I follow this plan. Now, what we do is we help people navigate with certainty, meaning that they are sure where they're going and how to get there. I understand where I'm at. I understand exactly where I'm trying to get to, and I understand all of the steps I need to take in between. That is economic certainty. It means that I don't have doubt, I don't have fear, I don't have uncertainty. I'm 100% certain. Okay. Again, the first issue we run into here is same thing as before. People lack understanding. Okay? People don't understand what are their goals. People don't understand where they're at today with their finances. People don't understand what their financial statement looks like right now. They don't understand even what steps they should take if they did know where they were today and where they're trying to get to. Logically, the way we should solve that problem is we should help them understand. If we help people understand, then they can start making better decisions for themselves. They can start having a better overall game plan for their family and their finances. They don't have to turn over control. Okay, so if I have economic certainty, I'm in control with my finances. If I don't, I'm not in control. Okay, but again, why would we do the logical thing? We're talking about the financial industry here. Why would we do the logical thing? That would make no sense. So instead, we insert the arbitrary. Okay, the arbitrary, again, is financial planning, modern day financial planning. Okay, modern day financial planning is based on really outdated concepts of retiring when you're 60 or 70 and putting all your money in the financial vehicles we just talked about over here, and following that system and that plan and executing it. And it's a very, very again, kind of a very, very pristine and prestigious looking career, looking occupation. But really, it's just a salesperson that has just a bunch of theory. Doesn't have any application, just a bunch of theory on, well, this is what I studied on my tests, right? So we get into financial planning. Now, out of financial planning, we get financial planners. Who's ever met a financial planner? Okay, they are some of the most pompous people you'll ever meet. Right up there with like lawyers and stuff and politicians. Okay, they think they know it all because they took a bunch of 6-hour exams and they studied for way too many tests and they memorized a bunch of language and lingo, and now they think they're the gods of finances, but really they're making $60,000 a year just like everyone else trying to pay their mortgage and their car payment, right? That's financial planners. Now with financial planners, we can't just have financial planners because you have to have something that makes them special and different. So we have to have, let me move this up. We have to have licenses and designations. Anyone ever seen a financial planner's business card? It has like their first name and then their last name and then like CHLF, CFP, CMA, and there's all these letters and crap behind their name. Okay, these are called licenses and designations. They're products that financial advisors and planners buy in order to purchase credibility is what it is doing. It's making you think they know a lot because they have a bunch of numbers and letters behind their names. Right? But they're just purchasing it. There's a company that sells this to them and they buy it and they think, man, if I could get CFP behind my name on my business card, then well, I'm a CFP. I study these exams. I know what I'm talking about. Well, again, same issue goes to what we talked about first. The people that wrote the exams don't know crap about money. Okay, so we now have these licenses and designations again And we now have companies that are selling these licenses and designations once again with the PowerPoint. There we go. So we have these licenses and designations again. This comes from financial indoctrination. For somebody to become a financial planner, they have to literally become indoctrinated with the financial information they're supposed to study to a different level of a financial advisor or just a registered representative or an insurance agent. You think about studying for a 4-hour exam or a 6-hour exam. Think about that. That is literally probably 200 or 300 questions that are all built by Wallstreet. By the time you finish studying with that, that's all you know. You're brainwashed. I studied for a couple of those, and that's how it is. You get out, that's all you can think, because you have to memorize so hard just to remember this stuff that by the time you finish it, it's all you can think with. You're dealing with indoctrinated and brainwashed people. Now, who are they brainwashed by? Well, again, they're brainwashed by these exams, which are created through government regulation. Once again, the government regulates what gets to go on the CFP tests, what gets to go on the financial planning licenses. All of that's created and regulated by the government. And again, we can't just have government special interest groups on top of that. Politicians and buying their way into this system. So we're not really getting financial advice. We're getting the same thing we got over here, and we're getting the same thing we got over here, and we're getting the same thing we got up here. You guys see the issue with this? These guys are in control. This guy's in control. This guy is in control. This guy is in control. These guys down here that don't understand are not in control. They're limited. Okay. The other thing is we help people build more prosperous community down, right? So think about building wealth. If I were to build wealth and I had passive exceeding my expenses, savings, and taxes, I would then be able to help my community, be able to invest in those around me, right? Andrew Carnegie, great example. Second richest man in the world in the night, because he gave all of his wealth away, investing in universities and libraries for communities so they could become educated. That's cool. That's awesome. So we teach people you should be able to help build a more prosperous community around you. I live in Anchorage. If I'm building wealth, I should be able to invest in Anchorage. I should be able to help Anchorage become better. If I live in Miami, same thing, right? Now, the problem is people lack understanding on how to do that, because again, they don't have wealth. They're not educated on finance. So most of us don't think with, man, I should start a library in my city for kids to go learn about business. Like, that's just not a normal everyday thought. So because we lack understanding, we end up taking a low responsibility level for our community. Okay, like crime starts showing up, poverty starts showing up, drug use starts showing up. And what happens is, because of that, the next arbitrary inserted is we then get wealth disparity. Okay, more and more people are not doing well, and less people are doing well. And so it starts to become this very, very segregated out black and white thing of like, you either have money or you don't. If you don't have money, you're not helping the community. You're not able to have the control you want to have, and you don't have a lot of sway in the way things go. Wealthy people, they can make donations. They can fund whatever they want to fund, right? But because I'm not getting there, I can't help with that. Because I'm not helping with that, more and more people fall into that wealth disparity. Now, because of that wealth disparity, we start getting poverty and degradation in communities. Because less and less of us are contributing to help our communities, we start seeing more people falling into poverty and drug use and abuse and all of this stuff that happens. Right? Anchorage, where I live, is a great example of that. You go downtown Anchorage, you can't walk 10 feet without getting stopped by some weird homeless dude smoking crack. Hate to admit that, but that's the truth, right? So you start seeing more and more poverty and degradation. Now, the arbitrary inserted into that is more social service programs. We need more agencies helping people with mental health and whatever, homelessness and whatever it might be, government-run programs and nonprofit programs that really aren't helping that much. They're just bringing in money and doing enough to be able to call themselves that organization. And because of that, we now need to have government regulation once again. We can't have a bunch of organizations and charities helping people with wealth disparity and poverty if they're not regulated by the government. That wouldn't make any sense, right? Again, government regulation means more taxes. And because we have government regulation, we now have lobbyists and special interests influencing these guys too. Okay, the reason I wanted to go over this tonight, and I'm going to open this up for questions, guys, is the end of these chains, the lobbyists and special interest groups and the government regulation, these are who is in control. When it comes to creating wealth, this is who runs the show right now. Okay, this is who runs the show right now. I don't. You don't. We have to go with whatever they give us because that's the system, because we don't have understanding, because we lack financial knowledge, because we're not actually getting results in the category. Therefore, all of these arbitraries get inserted and end up being controlled by these guys on the back end, pulling more and more of the control away from us. Guys, this is an issue because most of the lobbyist groups, most of these billionaires that are influencing the politics here, they don't have our best interest at heart. Okay, and I don't want to get conspiracy theorist on you, but just look at what's happening with Bill Gates right now. I don't know if he's trying to control the world and get them all vaccinated or not, but that's an excellent example of most people are not happy that that dude has the power he has. The only way to get that power back is to beat him, right? It is literally to become that spot and be able to be a big enough player in the space to fix it. That can't happen if we don't build wealth, guys. That can't happen if we don't take responsibility. And it starts with the basics of getting financial understanding so that I can become financially educated and wealthy and navigate my economic future with certainty and start building more prosperous communities around me. Right? Now, the last thing I'm going to cover here before I open this up for questions tonight is the end of this chain. So we have collectivist control and individualist control. Okay, collectivist control means that basically socialism, the group is getting the benefit and the individual is losing and paying for it. Okay, individualist control means the individual has freedom and control, and it's not coming at the cost of the group, because what is a group? A group is a bunch of individuals, right? The more and more we have these types of things going on where we have government and lobbyists and special interests running things, that's increased collectivist control, meaning we as individuals have less freedom. Okay, we as people have less ability to actually enforce our own rights and stand up for ourselves. Okay, so we lose control when that happens. The only way for us to gain control back is to decrease collectivist control, which increases our control as individuals. The way we do that is understanding this, being literate, actually understanding what the hell money is and how it works and how I get it and how I invest it and how I save it and how I use it to influence my community. Okay, Gwendolyn says, is collectivist kind of like communism, sort of like China? Gwendolyn, that's exactly it. So collectivism would be any sort of communism, socialism, where things are done for the benefit of the group at the cost of the individual. Right, like the group needs this, and it doesn't matter what the individual needs. He loses his rights because the group voted, and the consensus is that the group is going to get this, and it comes at the cost of the person. Okay, so when we're trying to look at this from a standpoint of what actually gives us more liberty, what actually gives us more freedom, what actually gives us more control, it starts with understanding. It starts with literacy. It starts with me putting in the hours to actually learn this stuff. Guys, like I said, I've been in this for almost a decade. Okay, I've been in this for almost a decade, and it's been me studying aggressively for the last 8-9 years of my life to get to the point that I'm at today. It didn't look like me handing my money over to a guy that had a bunch of fancy licenses and then saying, okay, cool, I checked the box for finances, and now I can move on and do other things now. And I don't have to think about it. It was literally, I'm going to study every single day. I'm going to really learn this stuff because I want to understand it, because I want to be in control. Okay. So I'm going to flip Instagram back around. What I want to do is I want to answer some questions for you guys tonight before we wrap things up here. We'll go ahead and discard my notes here. I want to open this up for questions. So we have Zoom up, we have Facebook up, and then let's go ahead and drop them in the comments. I do want to answer those. I'm going to start with what we have here on Zoom. All right, what kind of questions do we have tonight on Zoom? Liam, great to see you here tonight. Liam says, this is brilliant. Thank you, I appreciate that. Liam says, the people who write the test definitely know about money. They just don't share the information. They share the information that brings the most. So that's a good point. They might know about money and they're just keeping it back from us. Nano says, how can one not fall into apathy and rise up and refrain from falling back in? So Nano is asking, like, you know, if somebody's in a position where they lack financial responsibility to the point where they basically quit. I've been there before. It's like, hey, I don't want to think about money. I don't want to deal with money. I just want to get rid of it. The way that I get out of that is I actually have to make the decision that I don't want to be in that position anymore. Okay, 2 steps here. I have to decide that I don't know everything. Okay, because if I've fallen into apathy, that means that my attitude is I know all there is to know and there's nothing left for me to know and I'm just going to quit now because there's nothing left and it's the end of the game and I'm done. That's the attitude of know-it-all. So I have to actually be willing to know and actually have like an open enough mind to say, okay, this isn't working for me. This isn't working for me. I've got to do something different with my finances. And then the second component of that is I then have to realize that I don't know it all. I have to be willing to know, and then I have to realize I don't know it all. I'm willing to get information, and I'm also willing to admit that I don't have all the answers. And if I can do that, I can start to then open up my mind to it. Now, the first barrier that someone's going to come across is all of, like I mentioned, the fancy vocabulary. I talk to people day in and day out. They're like, man, I just don't understand money. And I always tell them, yes, you do. You just don't understand the terms. Money is very easy to understand. So I've got to realize I don't know it all. I'm willing to learn. And also I need to figure out the vocabulary, even though it's dumb and arbitrary and made up, these people use it. And if I don't understand it, I will never have control and have the ability to be part of that conversation and take control back. So that's what I would say. As far as not falling back into it, that's just a discipline thing. I've got to have the ethics to keep my word with myself. If I made that decision, I need to make sure that I keep that decision. Any other questions we have here on Zoom? Nope. Okay, let me check out Instagram really quick. All right, what do we have on Instagram for questions? By the way, thank you guys all for watching. I know it's a Friday night. You probably have other things you could be doing. It's really cool to see people on here that actually care enough to become financially educated. All right, I don't see any questions here yet. Michael, great to see you here tonight. All right, so someone says, Bill Gates, why is he dipping his hands into healthcare when he's a computer technology guy? That's a great question. I don't know. That's a good question. That's something I would research and figure out the answer to for myself. Somebody says that it's impossible to beat Bill Gates. He's a billionaire. With that attitude, yeah, it would be. Richest Man in Babylon, great book. We hit the question about China. We have a question here that says, what would you suggest for us to make money and where to invest? This is from Jordana. Jordana, thank you for the question. So for making money, it comes down to having knowledge, value, and then exchanging with others. So that's going to look like some sort of way where I can maybe work, I can sell. Like there's tons of ways to make money. As far as investing, I need to understand where I'm investing first. So I don't really give advice on, hey, this is where you should invest. I would say start learning the stuff. Don't feel like you have to invest if you don't understand it. And once you feel like you understand it, you're going to know what you like and what you don't like. A lot of these streams I do every week help with that. So keep tuning in. David says, great podcast with Bradley. Loved it. David, thank you for that. A sweet word says, what is the test? I joined late. So we were talking about, financial advisors, the tests they take. So all of the different tests that are out there. Yeah, Jordana's right. The test is not relevant. It's more about the bankers and stuff who take the tests. Let's see. Gwen sent me in my inbox question. I'll check that out in a little bit here. Let's see if there's any other questions we have. Let's see, check the question box. Steve says, what's some tips on saving? So Steve, for saving, and we have plenty of content on that on our university, but for saving, the biggest tip that I would give you is an acronym. It's called DITI. So it's debt, insurance, taxes, and investments. If you cut back on those 4 categories, you will have money left over at the end of the month to save, I promise you. The second part is pay yourself first. Commit to a forced savings plan. We have a program called the Sacred Account. It literally pulls money out of your account before you're able to touch it so that the savings happen first. That's how I've gotten where I got to, and that's what I do. How to make money without working? I don't know. Invest. If you got to have money to invest, but you're going to have to work to get the money to invest. There's not really a way to get it without working unless you steal it. But I hope that's not what you're asking. What books to start off with in order to become a great salesman, marketer, or communicator? That's a great question. So there's a lot of information from Grant Cardone that's really good. That's probably who I'd recommend most in that category as far as like salespeople that actually know what they're talking about. That's great content to study. David has a great question. So David says, if you're in your mid 40s, it's not too late to begin. What do you do? David, that's an awesome question. So David's saying, hey, if you're in your 40s, let's even push it further. Let's say you're in your 50s. Okay. Let's say you're in your 50s. Let's say I'm 50 and I've started too late and I don't know what to do now. First thing I need to do is I need to start educating myself. I need to start educating myself on money, because if I'm 50 and I haven't done anything yet, that means that at some point early on in my life, I had a misunderstanding on money and I never cleared it up to the point that it's still there and I'm not making progress. So I would start studying and then I would immediately begin increasing my income. And that's going to help me start saving and investing a lot more. David, we have programs that can help with this. If you'd like to get some information on that, feel free to shoot me a DM. Steve, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself, man. Attitude boy. Do you have a YouTube channel? Check out my YouTube channel, Jerry Fetta. You can see all that there. Great content there. We put it up almost every day. Really quick, guys, I'm going to hit Facebook before we sign out here. We're getting tons of questions here tonight. All right, great. So we have a ton of questions on Facebook. Eric Whitaker says financial advisors are salespeople. That's 100% true. That's all the financial advisor is. Let's see here. Who is in control of the lobbyists and special interest groups? This is from Brad Reese. This is a great question. So as far as who's in control of special interest and lobbyist groups, this is typically the wealthy. Okay, the billionaires, the people that have enough money to pay to run these groups. I was actually learning about education, and I've been studying lately. How do I study and learn more? I've been studying that topic, and what I came across is in the early 1900s, the Rockefellers actually funded a nonprofit organization that literally changed the entire education system for the worse. They removed financial education. All of the teachers were indoctrinated by just a terrible psychiatrist guy out from Germany that taught that the human is just a body and has no spirit. All of them learned that, and then that was pushed into the school systems. That's an example of a lobbyist, right? That's called the General Education Board. You can look that up. But basically, that's who funds this stuff. It's billionaires, it's the wealthy, it's people who have money to actually have the sway and financial resources there. Chris Hotze says, you're killing it tonight. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Edgar says, why are they called financial advisors if they don't help people build wealth? That's a great question. So Edgar, in the I think it was 1967 was when the first financial advisors course was released. And they use the word advisor because people are looking for advice. Again, sales and marketing. What do people want? Let's give it to them. People want advice. Let's give them an advisor. They're a lot less likely to sign up for coaching or education because those are all things that take work and people don't want to do the work. They want just advice. Here's what you should do. Here's what I think you should do. Let's put the money here. Right? So that's why it's called financial advisor. They don't actually help people. Liam's right. Also, no one likes to be called a salesperson, so they're going to find a reason not to be called a salesperson. Chris says, is everything you do insurance products? No, so Chris, insurance is one of the things we offer. We also do a lot of private placement real estate, gold and silver, life settlements investments, oil and gas, financial planning, education, just tons of stuff out in that area. So there's a lot that you can do with us that's outside of insurance. Now, there is some great stuff you can do with insurance that you and I have discussed before. Brad Reese says, I dollar cost average pushed hard to people so that they cannot figure out what the real returns are. That's true. So here's my challenge for you guys this week. If you have mutual funds, I want you to call your mutual fund company and I want you to ask them, how much principal have I contributed since I started? And I almost guarantee you they can't tell you the answer. They will not be able to tell you how much money you gave them. Okay, insane, but I've had to go through and actually help clients figure this out because the companies don't pay attention to it. Chris says, how do you help wealthy people? So the biggest thing I can do to help wealthy people is help you not pay taxes. Taxation is theft. If you don't have to pay taxes, that's going to help you keep more money, and then we're going to convert that into passive income. The biggest problem I see with wealthy people is they're wealthy with their business, but not with assets. The stereotypical wealthy guy in America today has $2 to $4 to $6 million of net worth in their company, in the value of their company, and no passive income and almost no assets outside of their company. So one of the big things we do is, yes, we're going to handle taxes on how do we reduce your taxes overall, but also how do we help you own some assets that actually pay you without you working every month? Rodolfo says, what are some resources you'd recommend to learn about money? So Rodolfo, check out wealthdynamicsuniversity.com. Eric already beat me to it. So wealthdynamicsuniversity.com, that's our financial education platform. And that's going to give you tons and tons of information on wealth, how to get wealth, how to build wealth. And it's very simple. It's all taught by me and my staff. Rodney says, what do you do with your money? I do a lot of stuff with my money. That would be a hard question to answer. Some of the basics I do is I save 40% of everything I earn. I only invest in myself and passive income, and I give as little money as I can to financial institutions. Steve says, PHP and WFG trying to recruit me, but after I read your book, I said to them, I'm not interested in being unethical to people. Would love to work with you. That's awesome, Steve. We can talk maybe more about that right as soon as the quarantine wraps up here. Justin says, for people who are looking to get started down the road of wealth building, what would you suggest someone starts with first? Books, programs, etc.? Eric is on his game tonight, man. Wealth Dynamics University is the way I would start. Guys, our university, it literally is courses like this. We have hundreds of courses in there, and it's courses like this, and we only charge, I think, $60 a month. It's stupid how inexpensive it is. That's where I'd begin. It also, at that point, you'd become a client of mine. I would be reaching out to you to help you and advise you. My team would as well. Rodney says, my grandpa got wealthy when I was 47. That's awesome. Rodney says, I'm interested in gold and oil and gas. Rodney, reach out to me on direct message. I can give you some info on that. They're awesome investments. It does take some knowledge and some education before you get into them, which I'd be happy to help you with as well. Now, I think I saw one more question on Zoom before we wrap up here. So Todd says, since government regulates or monitors qualified plans for their interest, is there any regulation in private lending and alternative investments? So the answer to that is yes. Even private lending and investments have to file what's called a private placement memorandum. So they still have to register with the Securities Exchange Commission, but they don't have to abide by a lot of the garbage rules that are out there for people that are selling mutual funds and stocks and bonds and all that crap. The biggest thing that regulates a deal is math. Math. You don't need a government regulating a deal. It's math. Understand math. Does this deal make money? Yes. How? Why? Let me demo it out. How do I understand it? If I can't draw it on a napkin, it doesn't make sense. That's the best regulation I can have. If the math doesn't make sense, it's not a good deal. And that's the biggest thing that I've got to overcome as an investor, because a lot of people never end up doing anything because they're so worried about what might happen, yet they don't realize what's already happening with the current situation they're staying in. So I wouldn't be looking at what investments give me the best government regulation. I would be looking at really what investments help me the most, which ones make the most sense, which ones are the easiest for me to understand, where do I have the most control? Like, those are the types of questions I'd be asking on that. So I hope that that helps answer that. Tons of questions. Thank you guys for the questions, by the way. I love this. I think that's it. I think we've covered everything. Let me just check one more time on Zoom. John says, so how do we beat Bill Gates? I think it depends on what we're beating him at, right? I think if we're going to beat anybody at anything, we have to be strong enough to actually compete, which means as individuals, again, we need to build enough wealth for ourselves, and then collectively as a group of individuals say, hey, we have enough swaying power to actually have some control here, instead of saying, oh, I can't pay my bills and the politicians are going to take care of it. So that is my opinion on that. But again, it depends on what we're trying to beat him at. If it's beating him at making computers, that may never happen. But I think I know what you're saying, John. So guys, I think that's all the questions we have. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. We will talk to you next week. If you have questions on any of this stuff, hit me up in the DMs. You can reach out to me anytime, and I will talk to you soon.